Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada, like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And welcome in. It's in-game live game day on a wild, wonderful Wednesday evening. Scott Wetzel, Mark Zinno sitting in for Dave Sherapan tonight as we take until 10 p.m. Eastern time. We got college basketball, NBA, little bit of hockey. We got our usual SGPs, though, in black clouds. Got a great lineup of guests. Jeff Dawson coming up in about a half hour or so with some college basketball, NBA talk with him. We got Dubsy, do a little golf, little NBA, a little bit of everything with Dubs, and then Cam Stewart caps us off in the final hour as we go over all his golf picks and everything else that he has on the board. Paul George talks, and only the 76ers respond like only they can. Celtics respond from being double digits down. Will all the college basketball crazies respond, including Texas A&M down at the half? My partner in crime, Mr. Zinno. What's going on, Mark? How you doing tonight, bud?
Scott, great to be with you as always. I'm an unhappy camper at this point in time. I got 20 minutes left to try to cover a bet here with the Kansas State Wildcats. And other than that, we are looking pretty on the Maryland-Michigan State under.
That's good.
I don't think they're going to get to 150 in this one.
I don't think so.
I don't think they're going to get to 100 in this one. That was a good call. Kansas State, bad call at this point in time. I mean, University of Central Florida has the worst defense in the Big 12.
Yep.
And I did not know, obviously, none of us were going to be able to know that the starting guard for Kansas State Hawkins was ruled out about 30 minutes before opening tip, and that certainly changed the complexion for Kansas State here, who actually had a 3-point lead with just over 4 minutes left and then did not score a single point the rest of the first half. So that's the kind of game that I'm in. I'm getting 4.5 with K-State. I got to hope to get a little bit lucky here and hope that they can fight their way back in this thing against a very bad, very, very bad UCF defense. The other part of this game that's maddeningly frustrating to watch is that UCF was shooting better than 60% for most of the first half. They finished the first half at 47%. So I got to hope that cools off as well. Just has not been a good start for the Wildcats here in this one.
All right. You mentioned, we'll start at the top there. You mentioned Michigan State, kind of a quirky 6:30 start time tonight for that game. Actually, no, that was the Temple game that had the quirky start. But Michigan State over. They had 6:32. Yeah, they both did, right? So it was kind of goofy. Or maybe I had the one was right. Temple may have been the other day they started that early. But believe it or not, excuse me, I actually did have the over in this Michigan State. You know, it was one of those just toss-up games. Got to do it early on, early starts. And I said, this game could go to quadruple overtime, Mark, and it's not going over. 39-36 with 9 minutes left to go in the game. 113.5. I think it's safe to rip up that ticket.
I won't say that just yet, but nonetheless, it's a comfortable position I'm in right now. Having the look, these are the two best defenses in the Big Ten, right? And Maryland's offense, as of late, was over in their 4-game win streak was averaging 87 points, 87.5 points a game, but they did it against the bottom feeder defenses in the Big Ten. So I knew they were going to have some sort of regression here in this one, and I just I was playing the percentages and the numbers here in this one, and it worked out being that way. I mean, I knew there was a chance that this thing could go over, but I said to myself, I'll probably know that by the 12-minute timeout. Both of those teams would have 20 points by the 12-minute timeout of the first half, and the under would be dead on arrival. Obviously not the case. The team struggled to score 20 points in the first half. So looks like we're in good shape with the under at this point.
Yeah, that's like Michigan, Nebraska from the other day. You know, the one-ranked team that's trailing right now at the half, I mentioned at the top there, Texas A&M, only down 2, but they are down to Vandy 34-32 at the half. Yeah, and a little bit of a discount, but you still have to lay 5.5. I wish that, if it got down to close to pick 'em, maybe 2.5, I'd hop in on A&M. But, I mean, I don't think they're going to lose to Vandy, are they?
They shouldn't. This A&M offense is abhorrent to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just a very tough offense. Look, Vanderbilt's a bad defense, especially on the road. And this was a game where, you look at kind of what had transpired throughout the day as far as the number was concerned. People were betting A&M the whole time. I mean, the number went up to 8.5 by tip. And I looked at the first half here, and even though I know it was sort of, walking into the teeth of Vanderbilt, who's one of the highest scoring first half teams in the country, averaging over 41 points in the first half. My thought process here was that A&M would finally have a breakout game against a bad defense on offense, and that the Aggies defense would rule the first half. And that clearly hasn't been the case. My math kind of had them holding to Vanderbilt around 30 for them to be able to even cover this first half number of 3.5, which they didn't do, obviously. But A&M shooting is just so bad. Now, look, watch what'll happen here. A&M will come back in the second half, pour it on, and end up winning this game 70-60, right? Like that's right. The game script here. That'll end up happening. Misread by me. Should have played the full game if I was going to do anything with A&M. But I did like the spot for them, especially coming off 2 straight losses, and Vanderbilt coming off a big win over Missouri. And so it felt like a good spot to play the Aggies here, but it's just an offense that is really, really tough to back. I mean, look, Texas A&M is going to be a tournament team no matter what, but dear Lord, they're going to have to fight their way through this and find a way to score, especially when they're not at home where they're actually, better than they are on the road. This is a really bad offense on the road. It's a tough go of things here for the Aggies offensively. They have to get into every defensive slugfest they can. And that means, look, you look at the games that they win. They held Arkansas to 61. They held Georgia to 53. They held Missouri to 64. I mean, South Carolina even scored 72 against them, and they won that game. Oklahoma to 68. What happens when they give up 70? They lose to Texas. When they give up 70, they lose to Mississippi State. When they give up 77, they lose to Tennessee. So you can see how the key number, even when they beat Ole Miss, 63-62. If you can push into the high 60s against this team, you're going to have a really, really good success rate in winning the game.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I thought was a pretty good spot, Mark. It's just underway. They're down 4-2, but you're actually getting 2.5 more points. It's up to 10.5. I like Evansville tonight against Drake. Drake had that war against rival Northern Iowa, right? They clinched the Missouri Valley regular season championship because they have a 2-game lead with 2 left, and they hold the tiebreaker over Northern Iowa. So these are 2 meaningless games for them to close out the regular season. Are they hoping for maybe an at-large bid if they don't win the Valley? Yeah, but I don't know if kids really, really think about that. And I don't know if they would get it anyway, even if they finished with 2 more wins. So they're playing for nothing. In 18 Valley games, they only have 5 wins by more than 10 points. I mean, because they play a lot of low-scoring games. So, you're getting 8.5 now, maybe even 10.5 in some circles because, again, the game just started. I got a feeling Evansville at home keeps this semi-close. I like them a lot. As much as you could like Evansville.
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, there's a couple of people I talked to who I consider very good at this. They also looked at Evansville. It's not a conference I'm particularly too familiar with when it comes to the Horizon League, and the teams that are there. Every now and then I'll dip a toe in, but not much beyond that. So it seemed to me, to everybody I talked to, that Evansville was the right side.
All right. We got St. John's and Butler tipping off in about 50 minutes. Yeah. A lot of people, I was telling Ranieri, I like Butler getting 6.5. Don't ask why, because St. John's is playing great basketball, right? But he said a lot of people said they like Butler as well tonight.
Yes, Butler or pass. I mean, the way I'll do this game is I will wait. I did use this formula earlier in the year with St. John's. Sit out the first half, wait for St. John's to be in a tight game, get a better number than what the closing number was for the game, bet St. John's second half, which is probably what I'll do tonight.
All right. Not a bad strategy. All right, full slate of NBA. Celtics were down double digits, but they actually have come back and at least tied it last time I checked. We'll update the NBA when we come back. In-game live, just underway on the grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in-game live. Game day here on the grid. Just getting underway. Hour number one. Scott Wetzel, Mark Zinno sitting in for Dave Sherapan, who's actually out for the next week and a half. Little vacation for Dave. So let's take a peek at the NBA, where we got some interesting scores here. We'll start with one at the half, getting set to start the second half. Celtics once down double digits to the point where they were actually getting money. Plus 156 I grabbed them at. I actually got the high water mark. They rallied to tie the game in the final 2-3 minutes of the first half, 55 all. Now they're back to being a 4.5-point favorite. They basically were 3.5, 4.5, 5, depending on where you did your shopping to start the game. So back to square one on that one, over under 219.5. Celtics, Mark, they're 12-0 against the Pistons. And I know the Pistons, this year's version is a little bit better than what we've seen over the last few years. But still, 12-0 is 12-0. Celtics 10-1, their last 11 road games. Pistons have won 7 straight as well, but this is a major step up in class. I think getting Boston, laying this small of a number is worth the price.
Yeah, I said all day long that the Pistons didn't want this smoke. Sure that they've won 7 in a row. Let's see. They've won it against the hapless 76ers, barely an NBA team, the Hornets, a bad, really Bulls team 2 times in a row, a Wembanyama-less Spurs, a Hawks who don't team that plays no defense, and the Clippers. That's not a real 7-game win streak in today's NBA. No disrespect there, Pistons fans. That's just you beat the dregs of the league, as you should, because you're a good team. But when you talk about playing the Celtics, the Cavaliers, and the Thunder, that's a step up in class for everybody, with the exception of those 3 teams when they play each other. So, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. Pistons don't want this smoke. I made this number 6.5 here, Scott. So I laid the 4.5 with Boston.
Yeah. Speaking of bad teams, you mentioned them. Philadelphia. I don't know if you saw Paul George, right, on Twitter. He announced on his podcast, I guess it was today, that he's no longer going to do his podcast because, in his words, he wants to concentrate on winning a championship this year with the Philadelphia 76ers. A team that is 20-37, and at this point wouldn't be making the playoffs, not even the play-in games. But he wants to not do a podcast because he wants to concentrate on winning a championship. Okay, whatever. So how does he respond? How do the Philadelphia 76ers respond, Mark? They're down, at the half? 61-45. They're down 16 at the half. They've lost 9 straight. They failed to cover 8 in a row, maybe 9 in a row, depending on what line you got. They're a train wreck. They're getting 15.5. Knicks were laying 9.5. I did the Knicks. I also put the over in, and that's probably not going to hit. But this Philadelphia team, I mean, you got to be nuts to put any kind of American money on them.
Scott, I'd like to announce that I'm officially not returning to SportsGrid anymore after this, because I'd like to.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me
I'd like
you did.
to focus on the World Series of Poker and winning that. So this will be my last appearance on SportsGrid, because I'm focusing on winning the World Series of Poker, at which point in time I will be eliminated within the first 10 minutes of sitting at the first table. So thank you, Paul George. You and I are simpatico. I'm going to announce that I'm quitting SportsGrid to focus on the World Series of Poker and winning that, because we have the same amount of chances of me winning the World Series of Poker as the Sixers do of winning a championship this year. Good job, Paul George. Good to see that you're really stepping up.
Yeah. You're making $40 million a year. I guess he can't play basketball and talk at the same time. The old saying, you can't, walk and chew gum at the same time. That's Paul George. I mean, really. What there are certain teams. We're getting to the point now where it's just bet against these teams, whether it's Philadelphia, whether it's Charlotte, which has lost games by 50, 40, and 30-plus points and back-to-back games, which is really that's got to be close to a record. I don't know if anyone ever looked that up, but that's got to be pretty darn close to the 3 worst consecutive losses. But anyway, I would not lay the I would not take 15.5, and I actually think with the Knicks you're probably getting a pretty good price, up 16, and you're only actually being a late 15.5 at home. They probably end up winning that game. The other interesting line, how about this one? Brooklyn actually leads Oklahoma City 49-45, 7 minutes left to go second quarter. OKC blowing that double-digit lead in the final couple of minutes the other night against Minnesota. I figured they would come out flying. Line was just way too high for me, Mark. 17.5, and now they're actually trailing.
Yeah, they're coming back in it now. They're leading. They've outscored them in the second quarter 16-9. It's a 4-point game. Way too much time. I don't know if they're going to cover that huge number, but I don't expect the Thunder to lose this game.
Right. Would you lay 10.5? Not giving you. I mean, they're giving you a little discount, but for a team that's actually trailing, they probably end up covering that.
I mean, if this was a 4-point game, I'll stay away. The short answer is I'll stay away. I wouldn't lay the 10.5, but would it shock you if the Thunder just steamrolled them? I mean, the Nets had a 40-point first quarter. Are they going to duplicate another 40-point quarter in this game? My guess is no, they're not. They might not get 30 in a quarter the rest of the game with how good the Thunder defense is. So, yes, it's still very possible they could cover the 10.5.
Yeah. Dopey Nets around here are actually talking about trying to make, not necessarily making the playoffs, but actually trying to win games and try and make the playoffs. I mean, they're actually thinking about that stuff around here. Don't ask why, because they have 50,000 draft choices. But, good luck with that. So, I tell you, the other line I thought was kind of weird. They're just underway. Bulls trail 11-7, still getting 9.5, which it was to start the game. I don't know why the Clippers are 9.5-point road favorites over anybody, even the Bulls, who have actually played well since the All-Star break. They're 1-2, but they've covered 3 games. They lost 1 game against the Knicks in overtime. Could have won that one. Could have won the second one against Phoenix. And they did win. They blew out Philadelphia. So get 9.5 with them. I think they got a chance to win this thing outright, Mark.
Yeah. Again, I don't know that I would lay that kind of number with the Clippers at this point in time, who also kind of I don't want to say they're a mess, but they don't look like a team that you can really trust, especially on the road where they're 12-16 straight up for the year. So complete stay away game for me. The only other game I really looked at was the Heat tonight. Heat and Hawks played the other night in Atlanta. It was an embarrassing game offensively for the Heat, so I would expect them to come back. I've just been watching these, home and home back-to-back dealios. Just wait for the first game to go and then bet the opposite in the second game. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, it's not a bad strategy. All right, in-game live. Here on the Grid.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to In-Game Live. Game day here on the Grid. 24 past the hour. Hour number 1. You know what time it is. Time for a little SGP same game parlay time. All right, we got a limited hockey schedule, but we're actually going to use the NHL late game tonight for our SGP. It's really hockey and maybe sports best kept secret. We're going to use the LA Kings at home, even money to win in regulation against the Vancouver Canucks. Why? Because the Kings are, believe it or not, one of the best home teams in all of hockey, in all sports. How about 19-3-2 at home, including 14-2 their last 16 home games. You go back to last year, they were 22-12-7 at home. 2 years ago, they were 26-11-4 at home. Add it all up over the last 2+ seasons, we'll say 3 seasons counting this year, they are 67-26-13 at home. They don't lose at home. They really don't. So give me the Kings to win a regulation against Vancouver. We're going to go under. They're a strong under team, especially at home. Goal first 5 minutes, no, -250. They actually bumped this parlay up a solid 100 points with that bet. So I wasn't going to complain. And then if I'm going to go under, the goal, no goal first 5 minutes, then we'll go use under 1.5 goals first period. Hopefully they don't come out flying, and add it all up, and it's almost a 5-1 parlay plus 493. So Kings to win in regulation, under 5.5 Vancouver, no goal first 5 minutes, and then under 1.5 goals in the first period. So
you are just all bought in on the under there. That's it.
That's
Full
it.
on under.
That's it.
No wiggle room whatsoever.
Yeah. It's amazing because I wasn't going to do all those. But, Mark, as I'm putting the pieces in, it's bumping it up 100 points. And you know how these sites are. A lot of times you get screwed because it's all correlated. Every once in a while they let their guard down. And it's like, okay, you want to give me under 1.5 goals? You want to bump it up 100 points after I already got no goal first 5 minutes? I'll take it. So we'll see what happens. Should be a decent game with the limited hockey schedule tonight.
No, I mean, listen, again, about the Kings, that's their bread and butter is playing at home. So I wouldn't fight against
it. It is amazing, but they just don't lose at home. It really is remarkable. Speaking of losing at home, Michigan State leading at Maryland 55-50, a minute and a half left. I should have taken the Spartans. I usually put the black cloud on them. They were getting 3.5, 4 points.
I eyed this game up, Scott, earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, if I get Maryland at 2.5 or under, I'll play Maryland money line at home. When the 3.5 came up, I just could not get there. So many close games in the Big Ten. The half a point said everything to me. We're outside one possession. And that's really when I pivoted to the under, which is why I took it. I said, let me look at this thing here for a minute. If Michigan State's going to win this thing, right? And by the number, they're telling you they got a decent chance to do it. They weren't going to get in a shootout and play up and down with Maryland, who plays fast, and Michigan State plays terribly slow. The only way that was going to happen was if Michigan State controlled the tempo defensively. Well, I knew Maryland was going to have a great defensive effort at home because they always do. They're one of the best home defenses in the country. And Michigan State can't shoot the three. And so that's when I started looking at the under. I said, you know what? Look, Maryland's been on fire as of late and scoring, but as I mentioned earlier, doing it against the bottom defenses in the Big Ten, so I knew they were due for some regression. The only other thought I had, which played to the under, I said, you know what? What if Maryland comes out and blows them out, right? Like Michigan State's just in a letdown after the win over Michigan. They're struggling early shooting. I said, usually blowouts still lean to the under. I felt like I had some more outs there. That's how I arrived at the under of the game. Then I went back and looked at the history and realized the last 6 games between these two teams, Scott, Michigan State won 6 in a row. They covered 5 of 6. The highest total in those 6 games was 142. And I'm sitting there at 150.5, and I said, come on. I'll just trust that the two best defenses in the Big Ten are going to play a rock fight. And that's kind of the way the game unfolded.
Yeah. I tell you what, between Michigan State and St. John's, the two teams that if you're looking for clubs to kind of upset the apple cart of, no Duke or no Auburn or Tennessee or Florida, those are kind of the two that maybe are just kind of lying in the weeds there a little bit and have enough to get it done.
State. Because they're so bad at shooting three, you're going to get down to somebody in the tournament, and they're not going to be able to come back.
Right. Without hitting those threes. Both teams, them and St. John's, lousy. All right, Jeff Dawson coming up next.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada, like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whoever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Scott Wetzel, Mark Zinno in for Dave Sherapan tonight as we check out a little NBA, a little college basketball, a little hockey, and who knows, maybe even a little baseball with our next guest. EastCoastSportsInvestors.com is his home. Check out all his picks. That's his website. Mr. Jeff Dawson. What's going on, Jeff? How are you tonight, bud?
I'm doing great. It was absolutely beautiful today on Cape Cod, low 40s.
Gorgeous.
Starting to feel closer to March. And then, of course, baseball, the pitchers and catchers are there. My Red Sox are back and super stoked.
Have we figured out who's playing third base for Boston yet? Or is that just, we'll let it figure it out by itself?
I think they're going to be very nice to Mr. Devers. They'll use the excuse that Campbell isn't ready. They'll just move Bregman in at second. Everyone will be happy. They'll hold hands, sing Kumbaya, and we'll see what happens in the first month.
All right, let's get into the college basketball board here, Jeff. What are you looking at tonight? What are you eyeing up?
I sent a couple games there. Butler plus 3.5 first half here. It's the same model as Georgia yesterday against Florida. We had Georgia first half plus 3.5 and plus 180 on the money line. I think they're up 16 at half and actually up 26 at the game and almost lost it. Florida made a great comeback. If you look at the Johnnies here, their last loss was at Villanova after a win against UConn. Johnny's coming off an absolute masterpiece at the Mecca on Sunday, again against UConn. Traveled to Butler. I'm not saying that Johnnies are going to look past them, but I like the spot here. Butler catching 3.5 in the first half, and I like them also plus the 180 on the money line.
What did I tell you, Scott? You want to chase a little plus money, you take Butler first half and St. John's in the second half.
Yeah. No faith, Jeff, on them to actually win the game or at least cover even for the full game?
You guys were talking about the Johnnies in the last segment. A couple of weeks ago, we got ahead of the train. We have them at 47-1 to cut the nets down, but 10-1 to make it to the Final Four. And of course, you're at the mercy of the brackets and who's in your bracket here. Patino in my eyes, got to be in the talk for Coach of the Year. This team can play offense. They can play defense. Do I expect them to lose the game? I don't. Can Butler hang within 7? I do think they can. They got to get into a slugfest, though. Don't roll this ball out in first one to 70, 75 because they got no shot. But I think Butler can play that ugly game here and keep it close.
I'm hoping Butler leads at half, and I get St. John's like -2 for the game, and then I hammer them in the second half. That's the perfect game script for me here, Jeff.
I agree. I agree. And like Villanova did to St. John's, they got them early in the first half. St. John's is never going to go anywhere. So if you get that big blast like Georgia did yesterday, if Butler can do the same, really smack them in the head, get a nice lead at halftime, then you can come right in and get, St. John's at a pick -2, like you said, and you can be happy on both sides.
Michigan State just beat Maryland 58-55, so that's done. Same kind of philosophy. Arizona first half play against Utah.
Yeah, this game here, 15 in the full game, 9 in the first half here, kind of gives me an indication here that Vegas thinks that Arizona could come out with a strong first half, double-digit lead at halftime here. I'd rather take a swing at the first half than a 15 full game lead, the back door open, now up to 15 and a half. You never know the last 2 minutes, how deep they go to the bench. A 21-point lead could end on 14, as you saw on the UConn-Georgetown game as you guys were wrapping up that segment there. So I like Arizona to come out strong. I like them in the first half here. I think that you can get a double-digit first half victory here.
Yeah, and you catch Utah coming off that quirky loss to UCF, a game that, kind of UCF got a little bit lucky into win it. The other way I looked at that game, honestly, was Utah's team total under, knowing that the Arizona, if they get out to a big lead, obviously the pace will slow down, right? And you have an Arizona defense that's one of the better ones in the Big 12, and a Utah team that is the worst at shooting free throws and the second worst in three-point shooting in the Big 12. I don't think that Utah gets over their team total in this game.
I 100% agree with you there. I expect Arizona to get up and get out early, and then that does not play into a Utah-style offense here. I think they should be chasing the whole game, Mark, and I love where your eyes are there.
What are your thoughts, Jeff? I got about a 17 parlay, heavy favorites, right? Couple already in the bag, including UConn. I love these things. You get it. You need like 7,000 teams, and you need to get it down like even money, right? So one of the dopey teams I chose was Texas A&M at home against Vandy. They were laying like 8 or 9 or something ridiculous, right? They're not going to lose at home to Vandy, right? Yeah. Here they are, Jeff, down 6, 54-48 with 10 minutes left. Should I bail? And they're actually got Vandy as a favorite right now on the money line and in point spread, -1.5. Am I in trouble with that parlay?
Well, it's only 1.5, so they're still saying you got a shot here. I mean, SEC is just so deep. Anyone can come into any building and shock each other. I think, we could be looking at historic numbers here. 13, maybe 14 teams they're talking about that actually could get into the big dance here. Vandy's been one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams for me. I've been on the wrong side of them a lot this year. So I'm rooting for you, Scott. It's only 1.5. You still got time, so I wouldn't bail just yet.
Look, I mean, when they talk about 13 teams, like some of these SEC teams.
Nope, I think we lost him. Yeah, I think we froze him. I know where he's going, though, Jeff. And, I did it today. Oh, there you go. Is he back? I know where he's going. Let me just throw it out there. I mean, do you think we're going to go that deep? Because I only came up with 9 at-large bids. 10 teams plus the champ. That's it.
It's going to be who steals some bids here once the conferences start going here. Is there someone knock off a Drake? Who wins, between St. Mary's and Gonzaga? Does a San Francisco, does a Santa Clara get in there? So how many of these conference championship bids are stolen? The least that are stolen, the more that are going to be given to the powerhouses like the SEC.
Well, look, again, part of me is hoping teams in the bottom half of the SEC, the Arkansas and Vanderbilts of the world, who are not tournament teams. They're not. They may get in just because they play in the SEC. But let me tell you what's going to happen. They're going to get in. They're going to be 10 and 11 seats, and they're going to lose in the first round, and they're going to be favored, and I'm going to bet against them. Like, that's the only upside here to some of these teams getting in that don't belong in this. Arkansas is not a tournament team. They're going to put them in, right? But they are not a tournament team.
Well, they're living off of their coach Calipari here. So I agree exactly what you say. And the funny thing is, how many years in the Pac-12, that gets 2 or 3 teams in and everyone stays away, the ACCs, the Big Tens, the SECs, we're always in our brackets and in the tournament, play, and there's a USC or there's a UCLA hanging around, the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. So I think just in name and power, people are going to flock to him. But Mark, again, I think you're spot on here. The 10, 11, 12, 13th one, can get picked off in just 2 seconds.
All right, real quick, you got to play for Vancouver, LA tonight?
I'm taking some plus money here. I took a shot with the Vancouver team total over 2.5 plus 115. Hopefully they get to 3 here. I think the Kings are a little overpriced here. Vancouver usually gives up the first goal, so hopefully they get a couple quick ones and then they keep it close.
All right, there you go. Check out his website, EastCoastSportsInvestors.com. Good job, Jeff Dawson. Appreciate it, and no doubt we'll do it again soon, bud. Thanks.
Thank you.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Mark Zinno filling in for Dave Sherapan tonight as we take it to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks again. Jeff Dawson, EastCoastSportsInvestors.com. It's a great topic, Mark, before we go back to the games. Every week I go through all the standings. There's 37 at-large bids, 36 conferences get automatic bids. And really, I was pretty liberal in my thinking. I only came up with 34, believe it or not, teams that I thought, okay, absolutely deserve an at-large bid. That gives me 3 more to play with. And I only had the SEC with 9 at-large bids. You're right. You know, the Vandy's and the Arkansas and the Texans of the world, they're not tournament teams. But you know what they do? You know, Vandy, I looked it up. They're 3-10 against ranked teams this year. But instead of taking those 10 losses and saying, well, that really shows they're not good, the committee year in, year out says, wow, they beat 3 teams. They beat Kentucky. They beat this team. They beat that team. Boy, they got 3 quality wins. Yeah, you're going to beat some of those teams. When you're not playing NBA, you're not playing the Boston Celtics. I mean, you are going to win some of those games if you're at least halfway decent, which they are. But they get so much credit for winning those games that they're going to get a bid over a club like, maybe Memphis, but doesn't have a quality win if they don't win the AAC, or Drake, or, one of those other clubs. Because they only care about who you beat. They don't care about who you lost to. And that's wrong.
Again, I mean, and look, my standard line has always been I'd rather have the big school in than the little guy, right? Like, I'd rather just see better basketball across the board. I'm not much for Cinderella when it comes to the NCAA tournament. I don't need the Florida Gulf Coasts and the Oaklands from last year. Those guys, that's not for me. I'd rather have the bigger schools in it. But that said, I'd rather it be spread out across multiple conferences than it just be, 12 or 13 SEC teams who just, in reality, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Texas, these are not, Georgia, these are not tournament teams. They're not teams that have the capability to make a deep run in the tournament. They just don't. There's nothing about them that stands out as special. And again, when you look at the SEC, because you have 11 or 12 ranked teams that, at one point or another that have been ranked. I mean, even Texas was ranked to start the year. As you said, because you're just playing – nobody's going to be good enough to go 33-0, right? That's just not where college basketball is nowadays. So you're going to beat somebody who's above your head. I mean, again, talk about Kansas State. I bet on them. They beat Iowa State this year. It happens. It's just it's college. It's young kids that are subject to emotions and things of that nature and whatnot. I mean, it stands to reason that that's going to happen, but that shouldn't be the sole focus. The entire resume for a team like Arkansas does not scream NCAA tournament. There's nothing about them that screams NCAA tournament. But, this is what the committee wants. And so they'll get it. And really, like, Jeff just pointed out and you've said, it all boils down to which of these teams loses their bubble burst because, Memphis doesn't win the AAC and they get an at-large bid, right? Where somebody like that is going to get an at-large bid. Deserve it.
I looked again. I looked at stuff. There's really only 2 that, like he was saying, Gonzaga. Yeah, like if San Francisco or one of those other teams actually won the WCC, yeah, you might get another one. But no one's winning that conference except St. Mary's or Gonzaga. So outside of Drake and Memphis, those are the only 2 conferences, Mark, that have a team that's good enough in the regular season that if they weren't to win the postseason tournament, they would get an at-large bid. And even Drake, the only quality win they have is against Vandy, oddly enough. So they might be on the outside looking in.
The other thing you don't want is what NC State did last year, right?
Well,
NC
that's
State
true, yes.
Out of the ACC that didn't win. You don't want, a team like that to end up, working
Taking
their way
bid.
into the tournament.
Right.
Because they're just not, they're simply not good enough. Take, for example, you look at the Big East, right? Like Villanova's another one. Could Villanova make a run in the Big East if the draw is right? St. John stumbles, Marquette stumbles early, and Villanova ends up taking on Connecticut or Creighton or somebody in the final. Yeah, Villanova's a team that would steal a bid, that they might not get otherwise had they had a first-round exit in their conference tournament. So that's the other thing I think you have to worry about when it comes to some of these bubble teams.
Yeah, that's more likely to happen than a smaller conference team not winning their postseason tournament and then getting an at-large bid. It's the Texas, the Arkansas, the Villanovas, all these teams that we say are on the outside looking in, but that they win 3 games and they win their postseason tournament and then they steal a bid. That's the craziness that this stuff occurs. But yeah, otherwise, I only came up with 34, believe it or not. So we'll see. Pistons beating up our Celtics. Wow, I can't believe that. 98-79. Yikes. Boston's actually getting now 15.5. Haven't said that too many times this year. I'll tell you that. 17-1 on the money line.
I mean, they got outscored by 11. They got outscored by 11 in the third quarter, and that really is kind of what has changed the scope of this game, right? I mean,
amazing. They tied it up too at 55.
Yeah.
Nothing at OKC. 76-61 they trail. Now it's pick 'em. All right. It's at the half. They're down 15.
Yeah,
you can get them at pick 'em.
On the Thunder. You could talk me into a pick 'em on the Thunder spot.
I would take them more than I would the Celtics. I mean, are they really going to lose? I mean, they could. I mean, that loss the other night was so demoralizing. But I thought they would come out flying and just pound, Brooklyn. I wasn't comfortable laying the double digits, but I did think they were going to come out and win. And not the case. Bulls getting 12.5. They're actually down 8 against the Clippers. 6 minutes left to go, second quarter. 47-39. Little surprised with that one.
Yeah, again,
surprised.
I mean, the Bulls aren't a great team, so not too surprised here. But the Wizards in danger of getting their 11th win and their 7th home win right now as they're down by 1 here in the third quarter to Portland.
83-82. Well, if you're betting Portland and Washington, man, there's that number, 1-800-GAMBLER, that you might want to dial before coming up and getting live.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day on the Grid. Scott, Mark, Zinno here, hour number 1. You know what time it is? Time for a little Black Cloud play of the day. All right, let us recap what our Black Cloud yesterday was. We went against the grain I think most people ended up going over on Luka points last night when the Dallas Mavericks went to L.A. and Luka played his first game, obviously, against his former team. Didn't even come close. 19 points, you see there, no sweat. He was dishing the ball. And, what did we joke about yesterday, right? What I tell Sherapan, and he agreed. I won't say he fought this. I said LeBron's not going to – he's going to steal the thunder because LeBron's a putz. We all know that. He's not going to have Luka have his day. So how many assists did LeBron James have? And the whole world figured, okay, he's going to be feeding Luka, and Luka's going to get his 35, 36 points, right? Ended up with 3 stinking assists. You and I watching on TV from our home can get 3 assists in an NBA game. Meanwhile, Luka ends up with a triple-double. He gets 10-plus assists. So the typical LeBron, so jealous of everybody else. So that was an easy winner. So where are we going tonight? And we're going to use a rare team total here, Mark. We're going to use the Arkansas-Texas game. I thought about Arkansas. I do like them, but then it got lowered to 2.5. Not that I like to have lines scare me off, but I think they're going to score some points. They're more than capable of putting 75 on the board. Team total's only 74.5. They're taking out a Texas team, kind of like a battle of attrition here. Winner survives the bubble talk. Loser is more than likely done, barring something really crazy. So they're at home. You got Calipari's crew. They're playing better basketball. Let's go over 74.5 points, Arkansas against Texas tonight. What do you think?
Don't hate it at all. I think if Texas is going to win this game here, you're looking at a game that pushes the pace. This is not a very good Arkansas defense overall. Look, Arkansas is going to have to score in this one as well to be able to overcome Texas. So I think when it comes to the spot here for Texas, they need a win badly at this point in time, and they'll be motivated to get one. But Arkansas has been playing better as of late, and so it's hard for me to bet against them. But again, I kind of just look at, the scenario here for Arkansas, and they should be plenty motivated to try and get another win after the big one they had last time out.
Yeah, beat Missouri last game. They're only 4-5 their last 9, but for them, that's actually much better. And those losses all came within top 10 teams, all by single digits too. I mean, they really are. They're playing much better. They were playing this way at the start of the season. They'd obviously be in a whole lot better spot. So, they're 10-4 at home. Texas only 3-5 on the road. Texas only 2-5 their last 7 overall anyway. So, you want a signature win. Not that this would be a signature win, but you want to win big. And I think Arkansas wouldn't call off the Dogs if they were up 10. With 4 or 5 minutes left. So. Yeah, I like the over 74.5. I think they get the 75 win, lose, or draw tonight. So our Black Clouds play of the day. There you go. Portland by 5 over your Washington Wizards, by the way.
Yeah. Back to college. Auburn's putting it on Ole Miss here at home. Yeah. They're up by 21 in that game. It's an 8-point lead for Vanderbilt here, 4:42 left. Clemson is all over Notre Dame, up by 17 there. So, the SEC and it continues to be all the rage here. And by the way, I know you said you were on Evansville earlier. They're down by 11 at half to Drake.
Yeah, I saw that. That's amazing. You get 13.5. I always put a little extra aside to double down. But that's telling me that Drake came to play tonight. And if Drake comes to play, then they'll win by 20. But I just didn't think they would. Like I said, clinching everything last game, little letdown spot, rival. If they're up 11, I think I'll.
A little surprising development in the Big East. Seton Hall has a 19-13 lead over Villanova with 10:37 left in the first. So Villanova got some work to do. That was a really stinky number. It was a really stinky number that it was. I think it was only like 5.5 or 6, right? That Villanova was favored by.
Yeah.
When I saw that line, I'm like, you can't bet on Seton Hall. Their offense is putrid.
Awful.
For a Power 5 school, they have a bottom 300, offense. You can't bet on them. They're proud to believe.
All right, hour number 2 coming up next.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day on the Grid. Hour number 2 of our 2-hour extravaganza. Scott Wetzel and Mark Zinno in for Dave Sherapan, joined now by our good buddy Dubs Anderson, who has some NBA, some college basketball, a little NHL, and some golf picks. A little smorgasbord with Dubsy. What's going on, Dubs? How are you tonight?
A little betting buffet. Great to see you, gentlemen. Happy hump day. Halfway through the work week, hopefully not halfway through that old bankroll. And, I was watching the last 60 minutes. Hats off. You boys are doing a fantastic job. And I was trying to put my finger on the pulse. What's different about tonight? Why are the vibes so elite here on the grid for a Wednesday night? And there's no Sherapan. You beauty. We can sit back, have a good time, hopefully dish out a couple of winners. So fantastic stuff. Really is a betting smorgasbord, as you highlighted there, opposite picks. A little bit of NBA, college hoops in fast fashion. We're also getting set for a tee time early tomorrow morning for the PGA Tour. So let's get after it.
Do you want me to do my best Sherapan impersonation? Dubs, I got to tell you, we know you're into the golf, and they've got some good golf coming up here. What are you doing on the links these days?
The only giveaway, Zinno, is you're not dressed up like a clown in all costume here this evening. Sherapan, I'm coming after him, but excited for the PGA Tour, boys. The golf season keeps on rolling. We've got an absolute doozy getting set there for tomorrow morning. Used to be called the Honda Classic, now the Cognizant. Not the strongest of fields as we kickstart the Florida swing, but with eyes pointed towards Arnie's place coming up next week. A lot of these guys trying to pick up some valuable points. And as we've seen over the last 5 years or so here, anything can happen. It's complete chaos. There's water everywhere you look out on this golf course. The wind usually kicks into gear over the weekend. So I'm loving the look of the way this one's going to shape up. I'm sick of seeing these birdie shootouts, 25, 35 under par. That's not golf. That's a long driving contest with a hot putter. This is a real tournament, so I'm excited for tomorrow morning.
All right, who do you got winning?
All right, Joel Damon, 120 to 1. Are we done here? Is that enough of a plus money, Peach, for you opposite picks? Look, he's coming in fantastic form. Top 10 at the Farmers, a top 10 in Mexico last week. He's playing with house money. A guy like Joel Damon, there's no ego. He's happy to be out there on the PGA Tour playing with a full status, and this is going to be a valuable opportunity But Jolie Damon, you look at what he does well. He knows how to find the fairway. You're not going to overpower PGA National. You've got to be playing from the short stuff so you can find those grooves and spin the ball. Joel Damon with confidence at a big price. I do think the long shots are absolutely live in this one. There's no real thoroughbreds. There's no class up top of this betting board. So give me Joel Damon at 120 to 1 in the outright market. And if you are looking towards the chalk and the big fellas of this field, Shane Lowry is going to be a very trendy pick. Rightfully so. He should have won this going back to 2022. Bad weather came into play. He tried to play through it. Sepp Straka got the victory. But for Shane Lowry, short game in bunches. He's a shot maker. You're going to need that over the weekend, but we're going to play him for a top 20 finish. Don't give me the outright. Give me a top 20 finish. Minus 115 for the Irish. The big fella, Shane Lowry, to bomb home over the weekend.
Back to college basketball here, Dubs.
Let's go.
we got a lot of good games going on here. We watched earlier. The Spartans beat Maryland. Were you on that game? What else you on tonight?
No, I wasn't, boys, but I was looking towards the Trojans, not the Spartans. USC at home taking on the old Buckeyes over at the Galen Center. It was tough in trying to find a side for this one, Mark. So I thought the total was in play, 153.5. It's dropped as low as 150 in the hook here. I'm going to blow it towards the overs. I think there's going to be fast tempo. If you look at the way USC like to play this one, they've got the offensive weapons, if you will. But that defense, it's a little spotty. Could be a couple of holes out there like a bit of Swiss cheese, and they could let up plenty of points. So with that total dropping to 150, smashing this one. Absolutely love the West Coast, Best Coast late night hoops, and I think we get that here tonight. USC should be able to get it done. Close one expected, but I do expect plenty of points. I think we send it north of 160, and it should cruise past 150.
I know this is not on your slate of games you gave us, Dubs, but I don't think you anticipated, as no one probably did, having OKC in the NBA down 14 third quarter against the Nets. 7 minutes, almost 8 minutes left. Again, in the third, and we can now get OKC. Well, they just flipped them. All right, they made them a 1.5 point favorite. They were a 1.5 point underdog. But basically, we're getting OKC as an underdog or pick them against the Brooklyn Nets. Would you do it, or is that a stay away?
I think it's a stay away. I was looking at this one at the halftime break. You could have grabbed 16.5, and I don't know what's going on in the NBA tonight. It really is wacky. You've got the Pistons
Weird,
up by 20 points over the Celtics. They're about to close that one out, and I think it's going to go in similar fashion here for the Nets. The Thunder are going to try and put up one big surge here to close out the third. If they can get within, I'd say 6, fantastic game on. But if the Nets can keep them at double digits going into the fourth quarter, I think they're going to win this one straight up. So it's a bit of a scary spot for me. And that's the beauty of the NBA, boys. It's an absolute crapshoot every night with so much variance from that deep ball, and we're seeing it again here this evening.
Late game here between Houston and San Antonio, Dubs. The Rockets are a very good home team, laying 8.5 here. Obviously, no Wemby. Do you trust the Rockets defense to keep the Spurs at bay and cover this number?
It's a tough one, boys. And, coming on with yourself, opposite picks, I thought, what could be that dark cloud? What could be the ultimate turnaround? And it's the Spurs grabbing 9 points, going against the Rockets, who potentially could be looking at a bit of a letdown spot. They had, their Super Bowl, their grand final last night against the Bucks. They were fantastic. But I do think the Spurs grabbing 9, low-scoring affair expected here, can keep it close enough. They're not going to win this one outright. Their season's gone from looking fantastic, having a bit of fun, to the wheels have come off the bus with that massive news of Wemby getting set to miss the rest of the season. But I do think low points, give me 9, give me the Spurs. CP, he'll be facilitating that rock. And I guess on the upside for him is De'Aaron Fox couldn't be worse. Could not be worse than what we have seen the last couple. I think he gets a bit more confidence back with that shot tonight.
Are you at the point, Does, with the NBA where you just go against certain teams? Mark and I were talking whether it's Charlotte or Philadelphia, which is losing big again tonight. Do you make automatic plays, or no, you really do break it down game by game?
It's been tough, boys. I've been getting bet up in the association. I guess a nice-looking one last night was Luka and the Lakers, played towards his unders, points, rebounds, and assists, and I was box scoring it, didn't get a chance to watch the game, and it just comes in by the slimmest of margins. But I really feel like the NBA's been absolute doozy. We're getting totals north of 240, 245, and 2-3 years ago, I'd be sitting back saying, what sport are we playing? How many games are we playing to get to 245? And then you get to the end of it, and there's 260 points put up combined there for both sides. So I really think with the deep ball being in such prominence, the variance that you can see night in, night out is just wide open. If you get that shot cooking, fantastic. You're seeing them well. If you don't, then you're losing by 20 to the Pistons. It's just how it's all shaking out. So I didn't realize, what are we, 20 games out from hitting the postseason, the playoffs? It feels like it's starting to sink in, but I really feel like the waters are pretty murky on who's actually going to make that tilt towards the promised land. I'm out here on the West Coast, boys. Everyone's talking about the Lakers, how good they're doing. I'm not buying in. Luka, LeBron, come on. That feud's going to erupt in no time. They both want to handle that ball. I need to see a little bit more JJ Redick and the boys.
Real quickly, you got a hockey goal scorer for us tonight?
Of course I do. Kempe, the Kings, they're getting the score plus 175. And if you're looking to play the Ponies this weekend, get out to the Gotham at Sacramento. Thanks, boys.
Got it, Dub.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The heartache of gambling. Welcome back in Game Live, Game Day. Thanks again, Dubs Anderson, for joining us, as he does from time to time. So Mark is on a potential loser. I'm on a probable loser, naturally. I'm on A&M money line as part of a goofy 17 parlay. They're down 6 with a minute 23 left, and they've already started the fouling game. So this, if you're sitting on the over, you got a shot here. I don't know what it was, but you're probably going to get another 20 points. So I need some help here. What about you, Mark? I know you got, Kansas State plus 4.5? What's the situation?
78-75, UCF, 14 seconds left. K-State just made a 3 to bring it within 3.
Ooh.
I'm going to lose this thing on free throws. I'm going to lose this thing by a half point on free throws.
Well, they got a foul, obviously, right? I mean, they're down 3, so they got a foul.
He's got to miss a free throw.
Yeah.
He's got to, I mean, is there any way that both teams can agree to just let the clock run out?
I don't think so. Down 3. I'd call me crazy, but I think Kansas State's more concerned about winning versus covering.
Now,
if this was New Orleans or Fresno State, you'd have a shot. But
North Carolina A&T for that matter, yeah.
There you go. Throw them in there as well. Old Arizona, old Boston, or Arizona State actually. All right, so let's play it out. Right, so they foul. Even if they hit 2, you have a shot. 14 seconds. We see these teams go. They go down. They take the easy bucket.
Let them run in and make a basket. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
you want them to make
or just miss both free throws. Or just miss both free throws. That would be fantastic.
Then you'll lose. Then they'll lose in overtime. Then you'll get it to overtime, and then you'll lose by 15 in overtime. So you don't want that.
Miss the last second. What I want them to do. Oh, wow! There's a foul on UCF. Something just happened.
Whoa! Really?
It just popped up on the screen. Unfortunately, I can't watch it right now. But I would love for them to miss both, make it a 3-point game, right? Keep it a 3-point game, and then K-State misses at the buzzer to tie it. That would be glorious.
Right. That would be that would be perfect.
But now
I see 78-76. K-State's at the free throw line.
Yeah, so they just made one. They just made one.
Now you got a foul to give. We had this last night. Nothing's over till it's over, Mark. I had
excruciating.
Who was it last night? I had somebody plus 7.5 last night. They were down 3 with 11 seconds left, and I had to sweat it out because they threw the ball away on the inbounds like twice. I forget the game. I ended up covering, but it was these things are never over. It's amazing. All right, so I got it 78-76 according to FanDuel. 11 seconds left. Maybe someone called a timeout after the first free throw.
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
I can't take this right now.
All right.
Just make the second free throw. Like, if he makes the second free throw and makes it a 1-point game, I feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, because then you could foul. When they inbound the ball, they hit both free throws. You're down 3. Then go down there. You're going to shoot a 3. Who knows? Maybe even Central Florida fouls them. Might even foul them on purpose.
You would think down by 1 if he makes the second.
Steal.
Right. They'll play it out and try and steal.
For a couple seconds.
Initially for a couple of seconds.
Yeah. And then if I'm Central Florida, like I said, if I'm up 3, I'm fouling them. So it would be good for you. So then now you go to the free throw line. You hit 1, then you probably miss the second on purpose, and then boom, there you go. Ball game. I mean, it is looking, you want to, if we've seen crazy things happen, but it's actually looking halfway decent.
Let's just not talk about it until after the free throw happens. Because if he misses the second free throw, then we get into problems.
Yeah, because then they're going to foul right away.
Right, and then we have to deal with the half point because again, you deal with I'm more worried about the double foul situation where they go down by 2, they foul, and then they miss a shot, and foul again, and then it ends up being a 6-point win.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
that's why you want to run. Yeah, you want to run a couple seconds off that clock if you can. 7 seconds wouldn't be bad.
Fouled. I guess did he miss the second one? He must have missed the second free throw.
He must have, yeah.
But now it's again watching this thing update, not being able to watch this real time is excruciating.
Yeah, how's that game not on TV? It's not on TV anywhere. Not that I mean, most of these games are, but yeah, who gets? I have the greatest satellite service in the history of mankind, and I don't get basically anything on my ESPN Plus channels. And it seems like every game is on there, but I never get it. A&M down 6.
I would love for UCF to miss 1 free throw here. 1 or the 2 would be glorious.
Yeah.
Because then they would foul immediately.
Let's see. 2 up to, let me go to my play-by-play here. Wildcat. I still got 11 seconds left. You got 7?
No, I have 11. It went back and changed. They changed it.
Oh.
So.
Okay. Figures. All right. We'll sweat that one out for you. Celtics ended up losing. We kind of figured that one.
Really surprising, man. I that was not what I had on my bingo card. Not only did they not cover, but losing outright was more. Now, here's the really interesting question.
By 20.
Do you play Boston against Cleveland in the next game?
Was it a look-ahead spot? Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was. But, will Boston be extra motivated after getting smoked by Detroit? I know I'll play against Detroit next game, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, listen, they won 8 in a row. I mean, you want to buy into the Pistons here. They're sitting in the number 6 spot now. They won 8 straight. They're covered every game. I mean, you mentioned they haven't beaten anybody, but they beat the Celtics tonight.
I mean,
and I will say this. 1.
Yep. 79-76.
All right. So now they got to inbound the ball. Now they're going to, I would assume.
Now it's a 4-point game. I don't know if they'll foul with 4. They would let them go down and take the 3. I need Kansas State to make the 3 here. Nope, they missed the 3. Rebound, and here comes the foul, and here's where I lose on free throws.
They had it down to 2. They fouled, up to 4, yeah.
Oh.
All right, we'll see. There's still time to come back down the court. You know how it turns out.
2 seconds left. Maybe I'll miss a free throw. I need to miss both.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid. The fickle fate of luck. Sometimes it's on your side, other times it's not. And it was on Zinno's side tonight. Kid misses not 1, but 2 free throws. and they end up winning by 4, not 5 or 6, had the kid made the free throw because Kansas State didn't get a shot, and you win by the hook. Nice job.
Listen, I got to tell you, I don't know where this young man is, but I owe Mickey Williams a lot of beer. Mikey Williams, sorry. Mikey Williams of UCF. Mikey Williams, thank you so much. Thank you so much. He's on the free throw line. Getting 4.5, 80-76. 2 seconds left. He missed both free throws.
Oh, you want to hear something funny?
Tell me.
Guess what percentage free now picture yourself laying 4.5, right? Guess what percentage free throw shooter? He's a starter, so he's a regular, albeit a freshman. Right. But what do you think he's shooting for the free throw line this year?
I'm looking at it now. 87.5%.
87.
Oh
my goodness! You had an 87.5% free throw shooter. Needed only one.
In fairness,
no less.
He's only taken 16 on the year, but he's only taken 16 free throws on the year. So he's made 14 to 16, but still, oh my God.
Wow. Again, it's funny, whenever I lose, Mark, I obviously think of, okay, we lost. But even when I win bets like that, I have a little bit of sympathy for the guy who was on the other side. You're up 4, you got an 87.5% free throw shooter, needing one, and he misses both. Oh, my goodness. That's a tough loss.
Listen,
that's the stuff.
Luck. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Absolutely. Won't throw that one back. Definitely won't throw that one back.
Nope. I'm taking every bit of it. Taking every single bit of it. My God.
Now, why did you even like out of all the game? I mean, that's kind of a weird, no nothing Kansas State, Central Florida game.
I had several people say that to me. They go, didn't even look at that game. Why would you look at it? I looked at it because, again, as I'm going down the board here, UCF, there was a couple things at play. They had just come off that fluky win over Utah. They had lost 4 or 5 in a row to that point. Let me just double check what they had lost to that point. Actually, I'm sorry. They had lost 7 in a row. And they came home, including giving up 104 to Oklahoma State in the previous game before Utah. They beat Utah on a really fluky thing. They went ahead with 4 seconds left and went up by 2. And it was some sort of weird inbound play that caused a foul. And what do you call it? They ended up getting 2 free throws to make it 76-72, and they covered a game at 2.5 that they shouldn't have covered. And so, after snapping the long losing streak, that's situations I like to play against a team, Me too. Because they breathe a sigh. Oh, we finally got the win. They breathe a sigh of relief and relax. K-State had lost 3 in a row, and was badly in need of a win. And again, this was a K-State team that kind of just looked at it and said, they've beaten some good teams this year, so maybe they can pull this one out. And I genuinely thought K-State had a shot to win. What really pushed me over the edge were 2 things. One was that UCF has the worst defense by margin in the Big 12. The absolute worst defense. And K-State came off a loss to, I want to say it was Arizona State, the previous game out. Yeah, it was Arizona State. And they shot at home, no less. And they shot off 33% and 19% from 3. They were terrible in that game. And I'm like, okay, well, I know they're going out on the road here. It's not like UCF was like an incredibly tough place to play per se, but it ends up being a spot where K-State needs a win. And they don't get it. Now, they're one of their starters was ruled out right before the game. Coleman Hawkins, their guard, was ruled out before the game, 10 points a game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, one of their bigger players. So he wasn't there. But the other thing, too, is that I use Ken Palm because I like their model. They had it as a 2-point game. And when I get a 2.5-point difference between Ken Palm and them, I'm like, okay, that raises an eyebrow for me. It makes me go, there's something here. They had UCF winning by 2. Okay, I got a dog in a must-win spot. I like it.
Cool. Hey, a win is a win, man. Absolutely. Great play. All right, more coming up in Game Live Game Day.
Brady Kachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Kachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Kachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Mark Zinno in for Mr. Sharepan tonight. So looking at some college basketball. Mike, so Mark wins his. Mine is just about done. 82-75, 20.5 seconds left. I told you, if you had the over, like they stopped putting these in-game live bets on. But this is like one example of like if you're watching the game, you know what's going on. I told you, A&M played the foul game. They started with about 1:45 seconds left the foul game, and it's been a scoring fest. At that point, there were 140 points scored with less than 2 minutes left. They're going to hit 160. It's 82-76 with 20.6 seconds left. You're going to score. Imagine having the under on that one. I think it went over the original number anyway, but still, if you had adjusted line or something goofy like that, I mean, you're scoring 20 points in the final 2 minutes of this game. Because dopey A&M is just not giving, like, they're not trying to win, Mark. I hate this philosophy of, extend it. You hear announcers say this all the time. Extend the game, extend the game. No, you got to, somewhere along the line, you got to decide to win the game, all right? You're not doing any good by you shooting a layup, fouling, and Vandy hasn't missed a free throw in this entire sequence. And they hit about 25 free throws. You're lucky you didn't foul Vandy because they've hit every single free throw. And instead of A&M coming down and shooting a 3 to cut into the lead, they're just taking the 2. So we stayed in that 6 to 8 point sequence for about, literally 7 or 8 possessions here. So, all right. They're going to run out of time eventually. But they extended the game. Congratulations, that's Texas A&M. Dopey.
Yeah.
Evansville making a run, by the way. We're down only 4. Down 4 with 6.5 minutes. Then down 3, check that. 55-52 with 6.5 minutes left.
Vanderbilt just getting a 4-point game, 83-76 with 19 seconds left.
Yeah, 7-point game. So you think now they'll shoot a 3? I mean, what is the point of shooting twos?
I don't know.
It's just.
What did I say? 4-point game. You're right. 7-point game. Now it's 8. Say 84-76. So
yeah, it's over.
That one's up. Jeff Legwell joined us earlier. 31-22 in favor of Arizona. 5:44 left in the first half there, as he had Arizona -8 or 9 here in the first half.
Right. Yeah. 9, he said.
We got an update. St. John's up 28-20 over Butler with 7:22 left in the first.
How about Seton Hall? Normally that would be a good spot, but I don't trust Villanova. Seton Hall's up 12 over Nova. And now you get Nova plus 3.5. I don't put Nova in that category of confidence,
Right.
Any other ranked team, but
St. John's, by the way, shooting 57% from the field and 43% from three, which we know they don't make threes, especially not on the road. But again, you talk about these teams like St. John's and Michigan State, right? Here, Scott, the teams that struggle to make threes and sort of what's in front of them in the tournament where, they're going to have a game where they're going to need to make threes to either, close a deficit or, down the stretch, win a game and close out a game. And there's not a lot of faith in them. It's game script. It's style for them. They want to slow everything down and make it a complete rock fight defensively. And even though St. John's plays fast tempo-wise, right? Sometimes tempo can be a little bit misleading because when you look at St. John's, they're 52nd in adjusted tempo in KenPom, but they're just not a very efficient offense, right? When you look at them, they are second to last in the Big East in effective field goal percentage. They don't shoot the ball well at all, both from 3-point percentage and 2-point percentage. What do they do really well? They rebound the basketball, they push the pace, and they try to score in transition, and they get inside and try to score in the paint. So, they force you to play their style, and that's what really makes them effective. And that's kind of what Butler is up against right now. Because on the nights when St. John is hitting shots like this, they're nearly unbeatable. Same thing with Michigan State.
That's it.
If they're making shots, they're going to be unbeatable because their defense is so good.
Right. Yeah, it's funny, Mark. If you're going to play St. John, the defense. Go ahead, take the three. We'll give it to you. They are literally in the bottom 10. 360-plus teams in college. They're in the bottom 10 in three-point shooting. Michigan State's about 25 from the bottom. So any team they play in the NCAA tournament's got to be like, yeah, go ahead, you sit there and take threes all night long. And while I think they can beat the Butlers of the world, you go up against teams, like the SEC powerhouses, the Tennessees and the Auburns of the world, and they got 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" across the front line. And those guys are all going to be sagging low. I don't know how many rebounds you're going to be getting. I don't know how many shots inside you're going to be getting. That works against the lesser teams, but I don't know if they'd be able to beat the big boys shooting that poorly from three. Unless they just happen to have one of those nights that they are shooting, like they've had the last couple of nights. Tonight and the game before, they shot lights out against UConn, too.
Villanova plus 3.5 live, down by 12 at halftime.
Not doing it. I don't trust them. I don't. I could, especially on the road. If they were at home, okay, but I know Seton Hall stinks.
Seton Hall is shooting 50% from the field. That is not sustainable for them.
That's not going to happen.
Honestly, Seton Hall under 63.5 for the game.
That's pretty good. I like that.
In theory, they could score 25 in the second half, and Villanova could still score 35 and lose the game. Right. I mean, it's probably better than taking the 3.5 to a certain extent, because the only way Villanova actually gets in this thing is if they stop Seton Hall from scoring. I just don't think it is that much of a I don't think it's sustainable for Seton Hall to continue to shoot 50% from the field and 38.5% from three.
Yeah.
But again,
I
this
like
is also,
the under.
By the way, this was a 19-18 game. Villanova scored their 18th point with 9:01 left in the first. They didn't score another point in the half until 42 seconds left. They went 8+ minutes without a single point in the first half against one of the worst teams in the country.
We saw this mark against UConn last week. They did the same thing. They scored 8 points in the final 12 minutes of the game and ended up losing, blowing a 14-point lead against UConn. 8 points in 12 minutes. So they are more than capable of continuing this horrid pace. I mean, not as bad as, I don't think they'll score 21 again, but they might. They just might. So,
yeah. Listen, for everybody who is like me, where I was elated at Mikey Williams missing 2 free throws, there's the other side of the coin. Chad tweets us here. I'm at Mark Zinno. He's at Opposite Picks for Scott Wetzel. Zinno, your relation is my disgust. Williams misses 2 free throws. Was also the same guy that fouled the K-State player who made the 3 and gave him a 4-point play. Yeah.
Wow.
He had UCF minus 4.5. And so there was somebody who was on the other side. I mean, that's certainly going to be on bad beats on Scott Van Pelt. On Sports Center.
Exactly.
I was happy. Listen, in fairness to Chad and everybody, I've been on the side of Chad more than I've been on the side of me tonight. So it's nice to get one back. I didn't want Chad to lose. I didn't want him to lose money. I hope it wasn't a large sum for him. Just some pizza money, which is what we all should be, wagering from time to time. Just a little pizza money. Nonetheless, I'll take the win. I feel bad for Chad. I mean, look, if there's not much I can say about my handicap that really came to fruition, because in reality, my handicap didn't really hold water at all in the game. I genuinely thought that K-State had a chance to win the game, that they would shoot better, they would be better on the offensive end, and UCF was going to be trailing and trying to chase them the whole way. I got lucky. I mean, thankfully it worked out. The way I hit the under in Michigan State, Maryland, spot on my handicap. This one was a wrong handicap.
All right, Cam Stewart coming up next.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the Grid. Just to recap, we actually had a shot with A&M, believe it or not. What a crazy long minute 45 this one. They scored, by the way, 30 points in the final minute 45 of this game because of the fouling and free throw and fouling and everything else like we talked about before. So somehow or another, A&M down 8 with 20 seconds left, had the ball down 2 with 0.2 seconds left. But they couldn't convert, and they lose 86-84. So Vandy ends up getting the win. All right, let's talk a little baskets, a little hoop, a little golf, a little hockey as well. No doubt with our good buddy Cam Stewart who takes over at the top of the hour along with Gabe Morency. What's going on, Cam? How are you tonight, bud?
Doing pretty good, Scott. Zinno's joke was amazing. I'm like, the Jets won 11 in a row. He's like, not New York Jets. No, Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg Jets. Exactly. We hit the total, Scott. But I got to be honest with you. I thought that line might be a trap. And sometimes we read too much into it. And that's kind of my flaw as a gambler. I'm like, that's a bait line for Winnipeg tonight, Scott. But they just hung a bad number, and the Jets win again. This Ottawa Senator team is crumbling. The Jets are winning. Coming up now, I like Colorado against New Jersey. It's a little bit of juice, but the deal is these guys have lost 2 in a row. They're at home. The Devils they're a good road team. Don't get me wrong, but Colorado's in a spot where they got to start racking up some wins. And later tonight, the LA Kings, best home team going. These guys are amazing, but I'm going to take a shot. Vancouver plus 1.5, sprinkle on the money line. That's going to be my upset tonight, Scott. Vancouver, very, very desperate, guys. I think the Kings have been fantastic. They don't lose at home, but I'm taking a shot tonight. It's just one of those vibe plays. Give me Vancouver. College basketball live. Let's take a shot with Wake Forest, plus 2.5 down in their game to Virginia in the second half. That's something that I'm looking at. And I'm also looking at Oklahoma plus 4.5 live. I think they can win that game outright. So far in college hoops, guys, it's been pretty good. Hockey, not so much with me. I took the Senators, but hit the total. But I got to tell you, I hit Duquesne. We used to have an update, guys. You know, he used to call him Duquesne. Me and Morency are like, that's Duquesne. Hey, he goes, what's up with Duquesne? And he called UCLA U Club. I go, you might be in the wrong business, friend. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, Duquesne was good tonight. And so let's give Michigan State a lot of props. This team is playing really good basketball right now. Izzo's got them going. They beat Michigan. Tough game at Maryland, and they get it done again, guys. Sparty's been really rolling, and they're a dangerous team as we head into March Madness.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you brought up Wake Forest. God, what a just a schizophrenic team. I mean, they're supposed to be good at home. Virginia's one of the worst and slowest offenses in the country, and Wake Forest has given up 36 to them. How many times? I'd like to go back and look at how many halves Virginia has put up, like against, in conference play. It's put up 36 points in the first half. This might be their highest scoring first half in conference play all year long, would be my guess.
Good calls, They are. Like, Wake Forest can look great, then they can look like junk, but now we're in a position where they were a big favorite early at the start of the game. I know you guys talked about the Seton Hall game. I have no faith in Villanova coming back, Mark. I like your attack. Let's just talk about the total in the game, maybe for under with the Pirates, because I think they might still, I don't trust Villanova coming back in that game. But, guys, we got golf picks too, Wetzel, one of your old buddies. Back in the fold. We moved from California to the Florida swing. Zinno's from Georgia. We're just a little bit south in the state of Florida. And this tournament, let me tell you guys, ladies and gentlemen, the Cognizant used to be called the Honda Classic, one of the most underrated tournaments going. The Florida swing is amazing. It is awesome. When the winds pick up, water on every hole. You know what? You don't have to be long. You have to keep it in play. And guys, good win players. That's how you get it done. So let's take a look right now. Outrights to win. Mark, this one's for you, buddy. University of Georgia. All they do is win at everything. Russell Henley. Don't call me Don Henley of the Eagles. 25-1. A little bit of water. What do you need? Thompson's water seal. It'll do the job. Davis Thompson is a perfect fit for this course. Fairways and greens. Fairways and greens. Get that putter going. Watch out for Max Gracerman, one of the better younger players on tour from Duke at 50-1. Billy Horschel, he's a Florida Gator. He knows this type of course. 52-1. Andrew Novak at 65. And Scott, my addiction, I can't get off this guy because if he wins and I don't have him. So are we at 90 losses yet for Eric Cole so I could break even? Give me Eric Cole, a man that has lost in a playoff at this tournament to Chris Kirk, another Georgia Bulldog, by the way, in 2023. Top 10s, great stuff there, Frank Font and Gary Graphic. Appreciate it. Shane Lowry, Carver's pick. I know Stu Dog and a lot of other people on SportsGrid love Shane Lowry this week. I'll take him for a top 10 at plus 260. Top 20, Daniel Berger from Florida State. This guy coming off injury is playing great golf right now. He is peaking. He's going to win one of these times. I'll take him plus 130. Sepp Straka, University of Georgia again. Do we have a theme? Guys who went to this school, they love playing in Florida. plus 150. Ryan Gerard for a top 40, plus 105. And the international flavor with Nikolai Norgard, plus 135. And the Canadian Ben Silverman, who went to school at Florida Atlantic, plus 180 for a top 40. First round leaders, guys. We hit 2 last week with, Chris Ventura, golf detective, and Harry Hall. Russell Henley, 35. Taylor Pendrith, 50-1. Andrew Novak, give me Novocaine at 60. Chris Kirk, we talked about him, loves the course, 90-1. Eric Colescott, I'm all in this week. And dangerous Joel Damon at 110-1 for a first round leader. If we can clip one of these, we can have a lot of fun this weekend, guys. Good luck with the golf, and hopefully we hit a winner, Scott. My boy, Steven Jagerbombs, I guess he hit the bar on Sunday because everyone's like, oh, he's going to win. Meanwhile, we had a guy, Brian Campbell from the University of Illinois, 300-1. Brady Cannon told me tickets in Nevada, 0. We don't know one person in the golf betting business that hit this guy. 0 tickets, 300-1. Didn't see that one coming.
That's amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, just to go back to the NBA guys, have you seen the OKC Brooklyn Nets score?
Let's take a look. What's happening, Scott? Tell me. I'm more college
OKC.
tonight than NBA.
All right. OKC, which was down 15-16, third quarter, 7 minutes left. Now leading 109-103 with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They were it was even money, basically. They basically pick them, Cam. Now they're back to being 8.5-point favorites. Now they got a shot to maybe even cover the original. Could you imagine that being down 15 midway through the third, and you're going to cover a 15, 16, 17-point spread? Maybe.
They're that damn good, Scott. I have these guys in futures from the start of the year, and I really like where we sit with Oklahoma City. They're a young team, but I think they're finally going to break through. They've been fantastic, and what can you say about these guys? They know they can turn it on. They can flick the switch. They're special.
It's amazing. You're written off for dead, and they're going to come back and maybe, who knows, maybe win, but you could have had them at Pick'em. Cam, great job as always, my friend. Him and Gabe, top of the hour. So don't go anywhere when me and Mark are done. Got a ton of more picks, no doubt. Thanks, Cam.
Thanks, guys.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day on the Grid. Thanks again. Cam Stewart takes over at the top of the hour for the next two, along with Gabe Morency. So keep the dial right where it is, little radio and TV for those guys. So probably getting paid twice, I'm sure. Final check of the scoreboard here. Evansville's cut the lead to 3. Down 62-59, 10 seconds left. I did love them plus 8.5. I really, it's nice when your hunches kind of come into play. It really just didn't make any sense for Drake to be that big of a road favorite. So that's looking crazy unless it goes to overtime where all these things go to die. Memphis only up 3. We haven't talked about Penny's team too much tonight as big favorites against Rice. 4 minutes left, laying only 3.5. That might not be worth a stab. But Rice stinks. I'm surprised they're hanging tough there with Memphis. So, you know what? I might put that in at 3.5 to tell you the truth. I'm guessing they're going to pull away. Indiana's trailing at home to Penn State, 49-46 mark. And then nothing out of Villanova second half yet. They've scored 2 points in 3 minutes, trailing by 14 now, 37-25. But, well, now 12. They scored again, 37-25. So, any final plays here that you like that's kind of jump off the page?
No, I mean, I'm get me back to the Texas-Arkansas score. Where are we here?
34-24 Arkansas.
34-24. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Fast start for
Not
the
bad.
Razorbacks. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know
Arizona
why
State
they were only 2.5-point favorites. I did like I like the over, but I did like them too. I put both in. I mean,
listen,
they're playing better.
I'd say this much. What's Creighton's number at half?
Good question. Creighton, I just saw it here. They are up 4, 11.5.
For the game?
11.5. Yeah.
I would like it. They're going to pull away and beat DePaul soundly.
I would think so too.
Creighton minus 11.5 right now feels probably like the way to go. Yeah.
I would think so.
That's the only thing that DePaul doesn't have what it takes to hang around for a full 40 minutes.
Right. For a half, yeah, maybe every once in a while, but yeah. Then the other one I like, it's kind of, a high number now, 178. I did like the over in Kentucky, Oklahoma. It was 161, 162, maybe even bumped up to 163. Their first half, 36-35, 3 minutes left. It's up to 175.5. I don't know if I would go that high, but I did like that, and I think Kentucky actually wins the game. Arizona's winning big, so they covered the spread. Jeff Dawson gave us Arizona first half -9, 46-32 at the half, lead by 14. So they covered the number. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Like Stanford, they were laying 10.5. This is one against Boston College. First trip for the East Coast to West Coast for Boston College. We've seen this play out numerous times this year, Mark. These teams on the East Coast and vice versa. First game on the West Coast, they lay an egg. The Boston College isn't any good anyway. They're down 18. Now you get 21.5 if you want.
Virginia scored 44 points in the first half.
That's where I was going, yeah.
I mean, that's just,
wow.
I'm just genuinely curious. I want to go back and look. I'm going to. I know we only have a couple minutes left here, but I'm just trying to see how many times they've scored 44 points in the first half this year. They scored 40 against Virginia Tech, who's terrible. They scored 41 against Georgia Tech, who's bad. I mean, it's just insane that. And oh, by the way, those two games were at home. Maybe against Miami. They scored only 40 against Miami, who might be one of the worst Power 5 teams in the country. Boston College is another really bad team. They scored 41. They certainly didn't score that much against Louisville. That much I know. SMU is a 54-52 final. They didn't score anything there. At Stanford, they scored 30 there. At Cal, they scored 32. Like, that's embarrassing if you're Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, yeah. And they're a good team. They're a bubble team.
That number.
No.
It's the highest first half output in conference play this year. I mean,
wow.
They didn't even score 20 against Bethune-Cookman in the first half of a game.
They barely score that for full games, let alone, although this year they've been scoring a little bit more, but still.
It might be the
I would
entire
take a flyer.
season. I'm going back. I'm going all the way back. The entire, that's probably their largest shot of the entire
I'll take Wake Forest. Give me that +4.5. We'll talk to you tomorrow, folks.